Hello everyone, happy Easter. I'm coming today to show you how I attach the lace pockets onto the inside of my traveler's notebook. I had a request from Bren's Blends, I believe her name was, in the comments section on my last video, and so I thought that was a really good idea. So I'm here to show you how I do it. And I'm sure there's a million ways, but this is what I do to make it easier for myself. I have my outside cover already ready to go, and this is going to be my inside. And so I want the pockets. It's going to be out of the canvas also. And I've cut myself a piece of lace that is not quite as long as my canvas, but I want to make sure that my edges are as straight as they can be. And so what I do is pull threads, because this is a twill type weave, and so the pattern showing, you can't really tell if you're absolutely on grain. And so that I don't get a lot of raggy threads, I go the extra mile and just make sure that I'm on a straight of grain. It's all that sewing training in me that I can't get away from. So I just pull my threads because that is going to be my true grain. And then now it's going to be kind of hard to see because I've got all that fray. So I'm just going to trim that off. So I'm going to move the cover aside and just trim it. Okay, then I'm going to pull another thread to make sure, yes, it came through well. Okay, because you never know. And to make sure I didn't nick into the next thread line, but that's just the perfection in me. It's not that important. If you nick into it, that's fine. It really doesn't matter much. Now for the lace, there's always a right side and a wrong side, and you can usually tell the right side in a heavy embroidery section like this. And if you look on the other side, it's got like the different ends, the short, when they were doing the weaving. So this is going to be my right side, so I want that up. And I'm going to tack it down with some Fabri-Tac to hold it in place. And I'm just lightly going to, where it's dense, I'm just putting a dot of glue. Less is best. And then I want to put just a little bit on this dense area up here towards the top. I'm going to be stitching on this line at the very top, so I don't want to put the glue there because it won't have a chance to dry yet. And then go ahead and place it on the edge or close to the edge. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. And the hardest part of this was to get my sewing machine over here, but what I did was I didn't bring my nice one that I always use. I have this little freebie one that I got, and so This one's easier to move around than my big old embroidery machine. So I'm going to use this one. So, and I'm not as familiar with it, of course, so bear with me. And I'm sorry it's a little bit loud. And I'm just zigzagging up here at the top of the trim. And if you don't want to sew, that's okay too. You can just glue it on. But then now I have my lace is stitched on. So now I want to trim my edges because I'm going to have the lace for the entire pocket, or the appearance of. So I've got that trimmed. And I like to work with it all in one unit rather than having two separate ones to begin with. And then now I want to get a straight line on the bottom. And so I'm going to start with this fraying again until I can get it to the length that I want it to be, and so that it's straight. It's probably more information than you were thinking, but this is how I do it. Okay, so now I'm going to trim off my fray again. So we'll get this part cleaned up. Okay, so now my pockets are ready to go. And what I'm going to do now is sever them. So right here in the center, just going to cut all the way through. So now I have two pockets. And I want to sew them onto the inside of my book, and I use that fraying technique again, and I cut my canvas larger than my cover to begin with because I'm going to be working with it, and I don't want it to end up being too small after I put all the work into it, and so I can always make it smaller when I get to the point that I'm going to sew it together. So this is going to be the working size that I'm going to go with. And there's a right side and a wrong side. This is my right side. It's going to be the side that's going to show. So now I'm just going to place my pockets where I want them to be. And I use my ruler so that I can make sure they're straight. I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch from my frayed line, and I'm going in a bit because I'm going to get rid of some more of that fabric. So I want to remember to do that. And this journal is going to fold in half, and so it really doesn't matter if the distance between the two sides are going to be the same, because you're not going to see it. I just tend to make sure they're always match. And then I'm going to just use some pins. Yeah, going through that glue. Okay, got one. There, now I'm not grabbing the paper underneath. I put a piece of cardstock down because with my craft mat, the glare shows up so bad that you can't see. So I'm hoping that that'll make it a little bit easier. But I'm just putting some pins in because I'm going to sew. And I always put the heads of the pin opposite of where my needle is going to go. And these are my pockets, so I'm not sewing up here. I'm just going to sew around each of these. And I'm going to use that zigzag stitch again. That will enclose the raw edges so that they won't fray. And because this is a fabric pocket, it's going to have some stress. I like to back stitch. And I don't sew over my pins. It's easier to pivot when the needle is in the fabric. Take my last pin out. And back stitch again. Oh, I got the big, huge scissors. You think these will work to cut a thread, huh? Okay, so then now I have this pocket is all stitched in and ready to go. And so it's quite roomy. You can get all kinds of things in the little pocket. And the same thing for the other side. So go ahead and sew that up quick. Last little side. back stitch again at the end. And I just ran out of bobbin. And, nope, I guess there's a hint of it left. I knew I was going to be close. But we got our pocket sewed on. And on this is going to be the wrong side. This is a side that's going to be inside. So, and now all the raw edges of the pockets are all enclosed in there, so it won't fray anymore. And this is going to go on here. And so now all I need to do is finish lining it up, trim off my excess fray, making sure that let me trim off one side so you can see where I'm going to line up my fabric. And I'm not going to actually sew it on there yet because I want to decorate the front cover, and I have not done that, and I want to sew the image through, so I need to do that before I sandwich these together. So get all that fray off of here. When I'm done crafting, I have these little threads all over my clothes. It's craziness. And I'll trim off this bottom one a little bit too so you can see a corner. Make it a little bit easier. Okay, just a little bit of it. And so this piece of tapestry is one that I got at the estate sale that I visited the other day. And it was just a scrap, and I made the journal as big as I could using that scrap, so you can see it's pretty close. And here they had some, I did trim off it had big rounded ends, and so I did trim some of it off, but I was really careful so that I could get the journal to be as large as I can and use this little piece of tapestry. So I'm going to have the point of that was to tell you that the lining is going to be pretty close to the edge because I don't want any raw edges to show. And then I'm just going to zigzag it on. But I have to, I'm not going to leave it just loose like this because then it won't stay. I need to glue it on so that it's not going to shift while I do my stitching. And I glued this on, so well, maybe if I grab just the top layer, pins might work. But I know that pins won't work through the paper. But I don't want it to shift, and so I want to glue it down. And I make sure I spread the glue really thinly all over so that it does not seep through or get rough and bumpy. Or if you wanted to, you could iron on some Heat and Bond onto the back side. But if you do use Heat and Bond, there's two different kinds. There's the light and the regular. The regular you cannot sew through. Your needles don't like it. It is awful. So you have to use the light, which has the purple writing in the instructions for the Heat and Bond. And the packaging will be white and purple. Rather than stay away from the white and red. Cannot sew through that one. But, so this is going to be my journal cover. I hope that helps. Have some fun. And thank you for watching.